Hello, golfers. It's Chris, and welcome to the GA podcast. The goal of this podcast is to help you lower your score in the shortest amount of time possible without spending a fortune on lessons, clubs, or gimmicks. Our aim is to help you improve your mind, body, and skill so you can become a single-digit handicapper within 12 months or less. And on today's podcast, we're going to give you top secret process that Rich and I have used to turn hacks into sharks. And that is backed up by several test groups, which Rich can attest to. And our step-by-step practice outline so you can lower your score more efficiently and in less time than ever before will be revealed today. And this is the same exact process that we use with every one of our challenge groups. But first, a message from our sponsor, which, by the way, is us.
Distance is important to any golfer's success on the course. What if I told you a distance cocktail is all you need to increase your distance by up to 100 yards? DriverBully.com has created its proprietary distance cocktail of fitness, golf lessons, and special proprietary training methods that work together to bring maximum distance gains in minimum time spent. No expensive equipment, no magic potions, just proven results. Go to driverbully.com today and take the Power and Distance Challenge.
Welcome back, everyone, and today I'm joined with the Director of Instruction for Golf Aggressive, Rich Guzzo. Now, Rich, word has it that the kangaroo pouch that you've been sleeping in actually broke, and you crashed to the floor, sustaining a minor injury, and you have since the pouch is now broken, you've changed to sleeping upside down like a bat. Now, I didn't know that you missed Australia so much. So, do these things, help with homesickness?
I'm on a fruit diet, so it's a fruit bat, so it's worked out really well.
Well, that's perfect. I mean, does it help with the homesickness? And I mean, you feel good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's outside too. It's under the stars. It feels
That's
great.
perfect. But you can't see the Southern Cross, so maybe you
No.
should paint something on your back porch.
Yeah,
Kinda
I'll have to have
looks like that.
I'll have to have a silhouette out there in my backyard.
Nice. So this podcast could very well be the most important one that you listen to, and that's a big claim. But honestly, if you're serious about lowering your score, and I mean, who isn't? Who doesn't like to go out and crush their opponents and outdrive them? And breaking 80 is a pretty good feeling. And if you're breaking 80, breaking 70 is a great feeling, or 90 or whatever. But this one thing that we're going to teach you today is the cornerstone of everything that we're doing here to help people improve quickly. And that's a pretty big claim, but I sincerely believe that anybody who knows their weaknesses can adjust their practice routine around those weaknesses within 12 months could become a single-digit handicapper. And that's pretty much for everybody. You don't need to be Tiger Woods or Rory or have their physical ability to break 80, consistently. So in reality, we're just going to discuss the basic principles, and Rich has a new tool that's coming out that's going to help identify some of these issues. So anyway, let's get to it. And so you want to shoot under 80, 90, 100, whatever. Well, you need to start picking apart your game statistically. So once you know your stats, you can find the problem areas, then set goals to improve upon. So Rich, do you have anything to add to that? When you started becoming a good golfer, what process did you use?
It's one of the things where you want to record all your stats. You want to see what areas you need to work on, but you don't want to have to think about it on the golf course. So when I was playing high school competitively and even in college, I would try to put the information in my scorecard as quickly as possible and forget about it. And then after my round, or if I knew the course, I could do it after the round anyways, but um, I didn't want to focus too much on stats and what I needed to improve on while I was playing. I just wanted to make note of what I was doing so that after my round, I could say, okay, I uh, I hit 13 greens. Those 5 greens that I missed, I got up and down every time. So from my perspective on that, chipping, I was looking good. Um, but then say my next round, I hit 9 greens, and then I only got up and down twice out of those other 9 greens that I missed. So it allowed me to identify what I should be working on for that next week on my practice session. So instead of just doing this broad, I'm going to break 90 or 80 or 70 goal, I'm able to break it down into segments. So it could be one week, it could be I'm focusing on putting. Next week, and these are based on my rounds. So each week I would adjust, but I am trying to get better in small increments to a end goal. So yeah, tracking your stats. Uh, I mean, I went basic, just fairways, greens, chips, up and down chips. I would also do sand saves, and then putts. I think now you can go even more extensive if you look at like the strokes gained average that you see on the tour now. That's a little hard to implement on a like a personal side because they're wanting you to um, record yardages and clubs and how far each club goes. I know there are devices out there that can can achieve that for you, but it's still a little bit more difficult for the common golfer. We don't have ShotLink following us around when we play on a
Yeah,
weekend.
it's almost too much work, and you lose focus on what you're doing at the time. Now, whenever we play, I don't keep score. I add it up in my head after we get done. But Rich has got the scorecard laid out, and he tracks everything on there, and you can see he's paying attention to strengths and weaknesses. So, Rich, we've been working on kind of a little project here that's going to be the basis of all of our challenges moving ahead, which is our statistics book. Can you give us an update on where we are with that?
Yeah, so it's essentially a professional yardage book. If you look at guys that are on tour, the actual player and the caddy carry one every single round. But then you reflect to every single guy that you see on a golf course on a weekend. No one's got a yardage book. Now we've got lasers, so okay, we can get the accuracy on the yardage. But what those yardage books do, it allows you to one plan your round, and also strategically play each hole. So we've got a yardage book. It's basically just what you see in most of those guys on TV's back pocket. Um, it allows
But
you.
this is a little different because this is going to include the tracking of the round and also the planning of the
Right.
round.
Right. So you can place mental notes in there. What's your swing thoughts or motivation that you have at that time? You can place it in here. Um, you can also look at. So, for example, you have a 4 round tournament. You've had 2 practice rounds. So for each hole that you're recording data, you can place notes on what my aiming points are, what club I hit, what clubs I should be hitting, or what I have hit from certain distances, wind direction, the end results. So it's just giving you a bit more information. So if, for example, I played a tournament at a course I wasn't familiar with, I get a practice round. So first thing I'm going to do on each hole is identify my aiming points and what club I should be hitting off the tee for a basis of what I will plan for that hole in the
Now
tournament.
that's obviously your dream. I'm going to hit this. I'm going to hit that. If you get into trouble, that's where the stats will come in because then if you're constantly missing to the right, the stats are going to show that, and you'll be able to backtrack that and what we're going to talk about shortly, and then create a practice routine around eliminating that flaw.
Yeah, so if you notice, like if you each hole you were recording down, okay, my intended point and my intended club was this, and then my next shot, on the right side of the fairway, and it's like and it carries over to the next hole. I'm on the right side of the fairway again. So when you go through your notes, you can say, okay, well, right side seemed to be my miss point, so that's what I need to focus on. And so um, and so this just gives you data to look at, because one of the things we get caught up in, especially when we're looking at a number to beat, is when we're dangling out, like if we're trying to break 80 or try to break 90, we're focused on the end result and not the process. And so
Exactly.
that's the one that I mean, you always hear those guys that's on TV giving an interview. It was like I'm thinking shot by shot, and it's boring, yes, for an interview, but as a golfer, you really have to focus in on each shot. If I'm on 15, I've got a one-shot lead, and I'm thinking about hosting a trophy on the 18th hole, it is the worst thing in golf that you could do. So the end result is the last thing you want to think about. So it's a process, and this allows you to break down that process, and it
Yeah,
frees your
so
mind.
yeah,
Uh,
so the book is this little yardage book that we have. I don't know if you can hold it up and flip through, so our
I'll
people
show
on
the
video can
This
see.
is this is like an example hole, so you can draw out um, to scale what the hole looks like, and then down the bottom you can draw out the green, and then record your stats and your notes and everything. So it allows you to strategically play a hole in your mind, and then as you continue playing it through your practice rounds, record the data down. Because what you may find is on the driving range you hit a 9 iron 150 yards, but on this particular hole it's only going 140, and you've played it twice in a practice round, and both times it's been perfect. So it allows you to put that data down, uh, so that when you do come to your tournament, uh, all you do is you look at the hole and say, okay, I'm going to hit driver off this tee, I'm going to aim it at the right tower, and then based on my practice round, I'm going to have a 7 iron in, and I want to favor the left side of the green. And so it really just frees your thoughts. It takes away, especially most amateur golfers, if they think, okay, don't hit it right because there's water, or don't hit it left because there's out of bounds. What normally happens is you're going to hit it right or left. So this one really allows you to look down, say, okay, driver, right tower, and focus on that right tower, eliminating the obstacles that may be out there.
Yeah, so this book, we're going to be using it as the foundation of everything that we do in our challenges moving ahead. I'm going to be honest, and I'm probably going to get some hate mail for this next statement, but I've taken a shit ton of lessons, and I know Rich has too. And I've never once had a golf pro ever say, go play 10 rounds of golf, go track all your stats, bring them back to me, and I'm going to pick a practice plan for you. I've never had that happen. Rich, you may have, but I certainly haven't. And then I've not ever had it detailed out. Okay, so here's your weaknesses. Now here's a plan. Let's go after this. It's always about the swing for the most part, or just generalities with the short game. It's never like a clear, concise plan. So if you're golf pro out there, think about that. You probably could make a lot more money on lessons if you give them a roadmap, so to speak. So now what we're going to do is, and Rich, just now, that beeping sound there was Rich's phone. So Rich now owes everybody in the listening audience a beer, because if your phone goes off during the podcast, you owe everybody a beer. So Rich,
My phone is always on mute. I don't know why it vibrated today.
you know, we don't have a huge audience, but I would wager
Yeah.
That'd be pretty expensive little beer there for everybody. So the next time you're around Rich, he owes you a beer. So, back to the topic, it's, once you have a baseline of your stats, then you have a very good understanding of your strengths and your weaknesses, and then you can plan out your plan of attack. So for today's segment, we're just going to say, okay, Rich, I hit every fairway for the most part, and I get close to the green for the most part. I'm just chipping, but I have 35 putts per round. So let's set a goal of, I mean, Rich, what do you think is a realistic goal if I'm doing 35 putts per round?
Ultimately, you want it down in the 20 range, but that could be a far attainable goal. And so what I've always found, it's like everyone does these New Year resolutions, and what, by February, they're done because
Yeah.
they set these goals that are so far fetched that it's impossible for them to achieve. So ultimately, yes,
And,
28,
and
29.
another thing, back to that New Year's resolution, it's also you're setting a goal for a whole year. I
Right.
mean, it's really hard to maintain your focus for a whole damn year when you very well know like your interest is going to fade 6, 7, 8 weeks into the project.
Yeah. So for putting, do it in a couple of shot increments. So, if you find that your average is 35 putts per round, and that could be, you could do it with 5 rounds, 10 rounds, uh, bump it up. So go 33, then 31. Those are your goals. Set little goals to get to the end goal. That way, it just doesn't put as much pressure on you, and you'll find that you achieve your end goal much faster. And then, you know, that's the key is that you want to get to that end goal, but you want to stay there.
Hmm.
So you can come up with a quick fix to get that goal down, or achieve that main goal, but you may not be able to stay there. And so the process of this, by doing small increments, allows you to get to that goal, uh, and stay there.
Yeah, and so if if just for example, if you have 35 putts right now, let's just say we want to get it down to 32 to 33 putts per round. Now, here's the interesting thing. Once you set this goal in numbers, it reminds me of training with weights. Now, if you have any of our weight programs or been in any of our coaching groups, I'm always like, write down exactly the weight that you did, how many times that you did it, and then you try to beat yourself the next time you do that workout. You try to go up 2.5 pounds, 5 pounds, increase reps, whatever it is. The goal is to consistently do your workout and then consistently try to beat the last workout. So you apply the same principle to putting in this regard. And it's amazing when you focus and you make it more important because when you're out on the green and you're just playing, you're trying to break 80, you know, you're focused on a score instead of a putt. With this putting, now that you know, hey, I want to do 32 putts per round, you put a little more brain power into it, a little more focus, and it really, I think for me, it makes it a challenge and it helps me improve much quicker.
Yeah, and I think with this too, um, the most important thing with this is when you identify an area that you need to work on, um, don't neglect the rest of your game. So uh,
Yeah.
that's the key. So if you identify, okay, I'm averaging 35 putts around, and you got to look at with putts. Be careful because you got to look at green and regulations on that as well. Because if you find you're hitting 16, 17 greens per round and your average is 35, yes, it's still high, but you know it's not that bad. You want to you want to get it down, but so, for example, if you're hitting only 1 or 2 greens around and that putt average is 35, that's when you're going to score higher. Um, so yeah, so look at those too when you're identifying if putting really is the concern, uh, and that will definitely
Yeah,
definitely help.
so basically, what we want to do is, here's your outline. Here's the secret sauce. So we picked our goal. We're going to go from 35 to 32 putts. So how do you do that? So what I want you to do is, for most golfers, the problem here is speed control from that distance. So what I want you to do is just go online, find some games that you can play that focus on speed. So you're going to take this game out to the putting green, and you're just going to work on that for 15 minutes. You may, if it's fun, you're having a good time, you could extend it up to 30 minutes. But once your mind starts to drift off, you're done. That's it. There's no point in continuing on this practice when you're not focused. There's no point in it. You're not going to get any better at that point. Another aspect would be practicing at home. So Rich and I, in all of our challenges, we have this thing called greasing the groove. Now, greasing the groove is simply programming your body to do a movement over and over and over again until it's perfect. And there's no reason, if you use these methods, that you could not have a Ben Crenshaw putting stroke within 3 months. So what you do is, randomly throughout the day, you're just going to work on one point of your putting. So obviously, if I'm having 35 putts per round, I might have some short putt issues. 10 feet and in might be a real problem for me. So at home, I'm going to practice my setup and alignment for 15 minutes a day. So right now, I've got a game that I can take to the putting green, and I'm going to work on speed. At home, I'm going to work on setup and alignment and make sure that I get that spot on. So I'm going to do this for 6 weeks. And at the end of that 6 weeks, I'm going to play my golf. Hopefully, you've got at least 5 rounds under your belt to get the stats. But you should see at the end of that 6 weeks a noticeable improvement, I would think. And finally, it's pressure testing. So, one aspect of putting is pressure, and people lose their focus because they're concerned about, looking like an idiot because they've got a 30-foot putt. They want to get it close. There's pressure there, and they stop focusing on the task at hand. So every practice that we have, we pressure test ourselves. So if you got 3 balls out, put 2 in your pocket. Take that one and play Rich's drawback game and keep score. So right now we've created a pretty solid putting routine that doesn't take a whole lot of time. You're going to be doing greasing the groove at home. You're going to be practicing putting at the range for 15 to 30 minutes. You're just playing a game. And then excuse me, on the drawback game, you don't need anybody to play against on that one. That one's has a lot of pressure in itself.
Yeah, I mean it's a great game just by yourself, but I mean it does have that ability where you can play it with someone else, and it just keeps it fun and has a common goal, but it's a fun way of achieving that. And I think one thing we want to point out here, we've given everyone the example of putting, but this can apply to anything. So if it's driving is your issue, or your iron play, greasing the groove is designed to motor your swing in a common way that will get you that end result. So if you find, say with driver, your setup position, it differs from each tee box that you go to. So that greasing the groove element will be focusing on your pre-shot routine to make sure that you can replicate that on each tee box. And then when you go to the range, you're going to hit 20, 30 balls, and your pre-shot routine is going to be the sole focus, making sure that you can replicate that. And so, yeah, this process can be applied to all parts of your game. It's not just
I like how you said that, process.
That's it, because it is a process. We all are looking,
Process.
we're all looking for that quick fix. But the thing is that when what we can get a quick fix and it doesn't last. So, uh,
Yeah, and this is just we've used this analogy before. It's like driving a car. I don't even think about putting the key in the car. It just happens. And that's really what greasing the groove is, and it's just creating consistency. Because I see a lot of golfers that are uncomfortable. They just don't feel comfortable with their shot or their setup. It's because they don't do it very often. I mean,
they don't,
seriously,
yeah, they very rarely practice. And then when they do practice, they don't know what they're practicing on. They're just basically hitting balls. So there's no
they're
plan
very
of attack.
unsure of themselves.
Yeah.
And
So,
it's that uncertainty that I think causes doubt, which causes tension, which causes all kinds of bad things,
yeah.
kind of like a chain reaction. So our program is number one, use stats. Get your stats. You need at least 5 rounds to get any kind of a baseline. I would suggest 10. And then once you have the 10 rounds in, assess your biggest weakness. They might all be bad. And that's okay because now we have a baseline. We have a measurement and a way to improve ourselves that is better than just our score. Now we know where we're screwing up. Heck, man, we might be nailing every fairway and every green, but still shooting 82. We need to figure out what's going on, and the stats will do that for you. In Rich's book, whenever he gets that done, Rich has been working on this book for about 3 years.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I will give you an outline. So this is something you can do on your scorecard for the very basics of what you should be tracking. We can get real technical and go into that strokes gained stuff, but to be honest, for the average golfer, just the basics are needed to assess where we're at and what we need to work on. So driving, mark it. So if you hit the fairway, good, check it. If you miss it, mark left or right on which way it goes. Green regulation. So if you hit the green in regulation, check it. Um, if you missed the green, did you get up and down? So if you use a check mark and an X, if you've missed the green, put an X. If you get up and down, circle the X. So that way at the end of the round, you can say, okay, well, I missed 9 greens, but I got up and down every single time. Good on chipping. Uh, Mark sand saves. You can mark that down. Um, and putts. They're the basics. Um, so from there, you can assess what we need to work on. Uh, and then, if you want to get more technical down the road, that's fine. But I think for the starting out, fairways, greens, up and downs, sand saves, and
I would even
putts.
break out like which side of the fairway they miss on consistently because
Yeah, that's it. So if you miss the fairway, you're going to mark an L or an R based on which side you miss. Because that way, at the end of the round, you can say, well, I missed 6 fairways, and they were all on the left side.
yeah.
Uh,
So
so
once you have your stats, you're going to pick one thing and
yeah.
just one thing. And we have a friend who overdoes everything. He picks 8 things. It's impossible to get better when you pick 8 things. It's just like anything in life. If you want your business to be a success, you need to focus on that one business. If you have 5 businesses, it's really hard to make those progress. So with your golf game, pick one goal. And in this example, we picked putting. And then you need to practice at home with greasing the groove. And that's just, basic stuff. Set up an alignment, stance, posture, could be your grip, anything like that. But you need to do that at home randomly, 15 minutes. And then the next phase is 20 to 30 minutes of range practice with a very specific goal. Now, if I will say, if I'm on the range, I will do a slow motion rehearsal of what I'm trying to accomplish before I swing it every time. So you might add that in. That can certainly help things. Keep it simple. Don't go crazy with tons of drills and this and that and gadgets. It doesn't have to be hard. So just pick one drill, focus on that drill at the range, And then pressure test yourself, put it into action, make it real time. Um, do it exactly as you would do it on the golf course under a pressure situation. So, I mean, it could be, to replicate a round of golf uh, on the driving range. It could be the drawback game on the putting green. So that, in a nutshell, that's our basic formula that we have that takes people from high handicappers down to single-digit golfers. So, Rich, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I think this is a good podcast for everyone because I think it will allow them to identify their ultimate goal, create incremental goals, so we can achieve that ultimate goal, but in a more attainable way, and then identifying issues with your game so that you can really focus in on some specific tasks that will get you that ultimate goal. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. I mean, I know from my personal standpoint, when we just completed the Flat Belly Golfer Challenge, and it was an 8-week challenge of predominantly just eating better, healthy lifestyle, workout, nutritional advice. And so most people that started the program, I know I was one of them, I have this ultimate goal of where I want to be weight-wise. Uh, but it's just too far-fetched. I mean, it's like 50 pounds away. So I set small incremental goals. I'm pretty much at my mini goal. And that was really only achievable because I broke it into small segments. So that same approach applies to your golf game.
Yeah, and it was also a challenge. I mean, you were competing against other guys to get that number one spot on our leaderboard, and you almost had it.
Almost.
Almost had
I
it.
think if we reassess now, I might have it. You never know.
You won the numbers game as far as total weight, but you didn't win the inches game, which that's the real winner right there. Um, so anyway, if this seems overwhelming to you and you don't have the time to uh, plan this out yourself, our challenges do include every aspect of what we've just discussed. These are all pre-planned for you. Rich and I have filmed the videos at the beautiful uh, what's the name of that golf course? I can't ever get it right.
The Hyatt Hill Country Resort in San
Yes.
Antonio. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, or even just let us know. So if you've got the data, that's the difficult thing with golf. It's like we've got this idea that now we need to look at like TrackMan and all this analytical data on our swings. But we get the data and it's like, I don't know what all this means. So it's the same thing with statistics. So you may track all this stuff and be sitting there and be like, well, I don't know what to do. So hit us up on social media. Um,
Yeah, I would
drop us an
avoid the
email.
TrackMan for now. Unless you're just trying to measure club head speed, I just don't see the point in it.
Well, if you
When
don't know how to interpret the data, then yeah, that's not something you need to look at. If you
the
have
old
someone,
school way of just getting the scorecard and tracking it all, or using our new book, I mean, what better way is there? Those are real results. It's not some, you know, driving range result over and over and over and over again, hitting the
right?
same club.
It's still data that if you don't know how to interpret it, even at the simplest form, can be overwhelming. But just let us know. Drop us an email, hit us up on social media. We'll definitely help because if you've got 5 to 10 rounds under your belt and you've got fairways, greens, putts, all that kind of stuff all recorded, but don't know what to work on, let us know and then we can direct you in the right way.
Yeah, and you may have heard in the intro about the driver bully. So if you go to driverbully.com and enter your email address in there, you'll get actually some of these video lessons that we've filmed. And further on from that, you can actually become uh, a member of the challenge, and you'll get everything inside of there. So I want to thank you for listening. And next week we have a special guest. Well, we might have a special guest. It really depends on if he can break 90 today. He's out playing golf today with his money group. And if he does not break 90 today, he's not going to be a guest because he's Mr. How to Break 90. And we just can't have a fraud on the show. That's just ridiculous. So If not, if Mr. How to Break 90 can't break 90 today, Rich and I will discuss man caves and how to create the ultimate man cave.
Yeah,
So
and my garage is starting to turn into a really good one. So
Rich has an amazing garage. We will do a tour of it, and it is golfer's heaven, basically. It's got everything in there. So I'm Chris, and this is Rich, and we are golfaggressive.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Every golfer knows it's a lot easier to hit more greens and shoot lower scores when you're constantly crushing your drives and hitting your approach shots closer to the pin with shorter irons. Let's face it, golf is more fun when guys are jealous of your length and ladies are in awe of it. In just days from now, you could be hitting a 9-iron from the distance you used to hit an 8-iron. You could be smashing an 8-iron from where you used to hit a 7-iron, or crushing a 7-iron from the same distance where just days ago you were hitting a 6-iron. DriverBully.com has created a simple, proven, proprietary system that will soon have you blasting the ball past your playing partners off the tee, hitting shorter irons into the greens, shooting lower scores, and having beers bought for you after the round, with clubs you already own. Go to DriverBully.com today and find out how our Power and Distance Challenge will transform your golf game. DriverBully.com.